Start recording.
And go on to live. So.
Yep, all done, all good.
It happened.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Well, hang on, there's one more step to go through, apparently. I'm just looking at now. All things were good. And now it's happened, yes. There we go. So, hello, everybody.
Hello.
David.
It would appear that we're a slightly more concentrated bunch this afternoon, but there's still time for other people to join us. And who knows, if we're out live on Facebook, that might encourage a few more people to join us in the Zoom room, or at least comment online and let us know that you're watching. And if anything comes up, by all means, ask a question, or at least, as I say, let us know that you're there.
If I was watching on Facebook, this would definitely encourage me to join.
Well, that's that sorted then. John's just said.
I'm just going to go get some water. Carry on. Will you feel free to carry on without me? Whoops. Spitting out my...
I'm just going.
I was just going to say, I think back to something that I think it was Dave Morris mentioned about, I'll say 2 weeks ago, about everyone was in a good place. Everyone seemed very positive at the time. And he, I think, just sort of made the point as it'll be interesting to see how that transfers into sort of 2, 3, 4 weeks further down the line, and what effect that has. So yeah, I'll be interested to find out how anyone's feeling around the time and how 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And I think, again, from what's being said, it could well be months and months before, even Christmas is being spoken about as a time before sort of full social interactions in the way we've always done them maybe become back to the old normality, if you like, as opposed to what the present day and going forward normality will be. I don't know how you feel about that, Sanjay, and just what difference maybe 3 months time is going to make, and 4 months. And
yeah, I think the thing that struck out for me personally this week was I'm used to doing live events every 6 months in terms of Emotional Mastery Retreat, and it's a big event, and we knew pretty much going into lockdown that the May event was highly unlikely, and by mid-April we knew that it was not going to happen, but the hope was, well, we might be able to do an event soon after, and it was basically kind of then looking at when will we be able to do it. So just going on to that. And in terms of the sense I had was I was okay with that, and then I heard on the news a line saying, "Well, we might have to socially distance ourselves until the rest of the year." And to me personally, that means there still cannot be live events, certainly of the type that I've been used to doing. And so now we're not just looking at getting through the next few weeks and a few months, but we're looking at getting through at least another 6-7 months before there's any chance of going back to not normality, but the new way of operating is. And I have to admit, I was a bit stirred because of what I do. Not that stirred, but I noticed that it did bring up a sense of, oh, okay, I wasn't quite expecting that. And I suspect there will be a lot of other people like that, because there is no clue as to what is meant by we will still have to socially distance ourselves. So does that mean that there won't be a lockdown? We will be able to move around, but we'll have to socially distance ourselves? Well, how's that going to work in a busy high street or a busy shop? So I think it's going to have to be a combination of both. And yeah, the next, I would say 4 to 6 weeks will bring out a lot of different ways of reacting to that as well. and hearing the news reports of some of the things that the police have had to deal with in terms of the incidents that they're being called out to now, most of it is in reaction to lockdown. It's not to do with coronavirus per se. It's more to do with how to deal with being locked down.
Yeah, and I think we as a group had conversations and thoughts around how that taking away people's control would potentially push buttons, and it pushes buttons in different ways for different people.
Absolutely.
How about you, John? How are you getting on with enforced isolation?
I sort of very much empathise with what Sanjay was just saying, and it depends which news item you read as to how either fed up or encouraged you feel. I do think that it's all very well the scientists talking in terms of, oh, it'll have to go on for so long. I suspect that the reality will be somewhat different from that. I did wonder if the chief scientific officer was living in a high-rise block in an abusive relationship, whether he might have a slightly different view on how long things might need to go on. And at the end of the day, life has got to be worth living. And there are things which are important to all of us in terms of human contact, which are coming, we talked many times about the things that we took for granted, which hopefully we won't do going forward. I suspect that the reality will be somewhat different from that purely out of social and economic realities. The country can't go on like this. It'll be bankrupt. The world will be bankrupt. And there is a point at which the cure becomes worse than the problem. So you think down those lines, and then you think, well, what if it was me that died in the second or third wave? I might feel a little bit differently about it. So you have all of these emotions going on all of the time, and which is, I've said many times, I'm a bit like a yo-yo anyhow, but at the moment it's even more extreme. Trying to plan for business, trying to get a bank loan, and you're trying to do a forecast, and you might as well stick your finger in it. Yeah. How long are they going to carry on paying for staff to be furloughed? How long is it going to be till dental, from our perspective, dental practices start opening? What's the market going to look like? It's just impossible. Yeah. And we're in a relatively, one of the beauties of what we do is that we're relatively immune to what's going on in the economy, but there won't be an economy to go back to. So as I say, I just think that at the end of the day, the social and economic realities will be far greater than the risk. And the other thing that I was thinking, which again, it sounds a little callous, but we're how many people in this country? 57, 58 million?
At least.
And I'm not trying to minimise in any way what's happened, but 20,000 deaths? Let's assume it was 100,000 out of 57 million. When you bear in mind that the greater threat going forward is the human the population of the Earth, that's not sustainable anyhow. So there's all of this stuff going on around. All I know at the end of the day is I had a lovely walk with Rita in the park this morning. I'll have another nice walk with Rita this evening, and tomorrow will be another day. Hopefully.
Okay, so if I can button it.
Summarize.
2 points that came to me. But one, I had one of those nerdy moments late last night where I got a calculator out for some reason and I started to work things out. So I'm not saying my maths was correct, but even if it's 100% wrong, it still stacks up. So we live in a world of what, 7.5 billion? That's what I assumed. And to me, that means 7,000 million. So that's I don't know if that's what a billion is.
Yeah, that's good.
Well done.
So far, so good.
So 200,000 as a percentage of 7.5 billion came to 0.0003.
We'll have to take your word for that.
Which is about which is 3 in 10,000. So out of every 10,000 people on the planet, 3 people have died from coronavirus. Kind of puts a different perspective to the numbers when stated that way. And then you think, well, how serious is this? And I'm not talking about, you know, it's very contagious and all the rest. I'm just saying at the moment, it's 3 in 10,000. So that was one perspective. And the other thing that came to mind was a guy called Ken Keyes, if you've heard of him. Ken Keyes was introduced to me by Tolly Burkhan when I was first out there. He mentioned him, and then I had read a bit more about him on the internet, having come back, and Tolly said at the time, when he first met Ken Keyes, he had a completely different perspective on life. So Ken had said for a long time before then that he was extremely happy. And Tolly had just accepted that until he met him. And for the first time, he realized that Ken Keyes was a paraplegic, sat in a wheelchair, saying that he was extremely happy. And Tolly went on to say, Ken is the happiest person he's ever met, even now. So when we talk about lockdown and, you know, maybe locked-in syndrome, when people get locked in their bodies, and we say, well, how on earth are we going to deal with that? Here you've got a guy who was locked into his body, couldn't move anything, you know, really from the neck down. He was regarded as one of the happiest people alive and taught people about how to be happy whilst he was strapped to this wheelchair. And I look at everybody in the room and I don't see anybody trapped in a wheelchair. I don't see, you know, even in my analogy of the open prison gets blown out the water, really, when you can start to regard this, is there are all sorts of things at play here. And yes, you know, there is an economy, but how do we know that the economy won't survive? Because the world survived before there was an economy. Humans survived before there was an economy. There might be a culling of the masses, but at the end, there will still be life. And I'm doubtful now if we can even wipe ourselves off this planet by doing something stupid, because I don't think we're clever enough to do that as well, because the planet will still survive. Even if it blow up everything on the planet itself won't disappear. So I'm just adding a different context to all of this. I'd just like to depends on where people are at on this. What are the opinions that are here? So we can open that up in a bit. But I'll come back to you, John, and then Dave, do you want to?
You coming back to me now?
I can do.
Yes, we have done.
Raisin. No, I remember listening to Byron Katie talking to a group of environmentalists, and you know that they were basically saying that if we don't do something about the environment, then humanity won't survive, and that would be a terrible thing. And her response was, "Do you know that to be true? Actually, would it be a terrible thing if we were wiped off the planet? I'm damn sure for the sake of the planet and for most of the animals on it, it would be the best thing that could possibly happen. Look at what happens when we stop driving cars. You know, the pollution lifts. You'd be damn sure as soon as things go back to whatever the hell normal looks like, that, you know, the nice clean air that we're all able to breathe at the moment will disappear again. So it's all of this stuff. But as I say, at the end of the day, right here, right now, I'm looking at a screen full of lovely people, and that's apart from Dave.
I was going to wave at you, but I'm not going to now.
You're extra specially nice, Dave. Apart from that, you know, so who's, you know, as you say, who's to know what's going to happen with the economy? Who the hell's going to know what's going to happen tomorrow?
Yeah, I'd say we're just jealous that we don't have a beard like him. He's got far more.
Yeah, my aim is to be just like you, Dave.
Thank you, John. Funny, I was reading something earlier this week that the point was made that is mankind actually clever enough to destroy the world and destroy themselves with it? And every time we get close, for whatever reason, we're stopped despite ourselves. So yeah, levels of pollution. In fact, climate catastrophe and climate crisis had been on the news for many months until it got sort of elbowed aside by coronavirus. And yet at that point, you know, I think we were close to the tipping point. Well, whether we like it or not, we're well away from that now. You know, as you just said, the pollution, as car emissions, planes, it's just all going away at the moment. So whether we like it or not, it may well be that despite our best efforts, we're not going to destroy the planet, or if we destroy ourselves, then that's down to us. The other thing, and just strangely, I realised yesterday, the sky's got more than one colour blue in it. And I'd never realised that. And you look at the sky and it's not just blue, it's different blues. And I thought that was wonderful. Partly because I just never noticed it. It's taken me all this time. So yeah, there's more than one blue in the sky.
Did you notice that there was? Did you notice that there were some clouds as well?
But it was a clear blue sky. It was cloudless, and it was more than one blue. And I just thought that was awesome. So yeah, that was a benefit I've got.
We'll have trees. You start looking at the trees, don't you?
Oh, the different greens. They got. Oh yeah, don't get me started on trees.
So let's open it up to everybody who would like to say something. Kerry.
Kerry was very hands up. Hello, Kerry.
Hi everyone, lovely to see you all. I think everybody is dealing with this in so many different ways, but the general feeling that I'm getting from most people is acceptance. So people like my family I'm chatting to a lot more on the telephone, and my friends, and most people just seem to be actually just okay with what's going on. And like Dave was just talking about the sky being so blue. I popped just a thought onto Facebook the other day, because I really feel as though the birds are singing more. So I was just wondering if everybody else felt they were singing more, or because everything's a lot quieter and calmer and we're all at home and we're all less busy, are we just hearing them more? And it was really interesting to see the responses just from like random people. It was quite a really good kind of diverse group of different people, and most people felt as though the birds are actually singing more, and I really feel that they are also. So I think what I'm getting out of all of this is it's just so nice just to stop and I spend a lot of time in my brain, which is not always a great place to be, and I'm going more inside. So I'm really enjoying that experience of just going in and stopping and noticing what's going on. And so that's been a real noticeable thing for me, actually hearing the birds, but lots of different birds, and they're all like, there's one bird every day and it kind of makes the sound of a siren, like nino nino nino, and it does it all the time now. So I'm even hearing different sounds that the birds are making, and it's just really nice. And I think whilst it's all a little bit crazy, I'm limiting myself massively to the news, what I read on social media. I don't buy a newspaper and I don't listen to mainstream radio. So I'm very limited to the external information that's coming in. And I really like that. I do that on purpose, and I have done for about 15 years. But what I do know is that everything is temporary. Life itself is temporary, and there will be an outcome, because there has to be an outcome.
Why?
Because everything has a beginning and an end. life itself is temporary. There's one thing that is guaranteed, and that's we're all going to die at some point. So I think having this time is really allowing me to go inside and just be at peace more, acceptance more, and I'm really, really liking it.
So would you not like this to end on that basis?
I'm really enjoying it. My only inkling,
what are we going to be like when, if we do accept that at some point this is going to come to an end?
it will come to an end, because everything has to, because it's just the nature of life and the cycle of life. But I think whilst this is happening, everybody has to be at home. There's only certain parameters that you can work within, and I'm just appreciating this downtime, just stopping, the quietness. Even the evenings, the night is just so quiet, and I'm just appreciating it and trying to be more present and more in the moment, which is something for a 6 pattern isn't something I normally do. My brain's always 100 miles an hour. While I'm doing one thing, I'm thinking of the next. So this is quite novel for me, and I really, really like it.
So on that basis, presumably you'd like it to continue for a long time.
The horrible stuff around it, absolutely not. But then again, I'm questioning everything. Are these figures real? Are the sources of information real? Is COVID actually real? I'm intelligently questioning things, and not accepting everything that I'm being told, and not accepting everything that I'm reading. And for me, that's the right thing to do, and not to kind of just accept everything, just take it for checking, really. But my only source of income is property, and there's no help for me in terms of government grants, loans, etc. Touch wood, everything's fine up to now, and I'm really grateful for that, but that could change at any minute. If that changed, then my personal challenges would become a lot more, so I may not be as calm and as accepting as I am. But right now, it's all just cool. I like it.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Kerry. For me, that one comment about everything is temporary. Pretty much sums everything up. Has anyone else got anything they'd like to share with us?
Keith had his hand up before. Oh, sorry, Jenny.
Jenny jumped in. Hello, Jenny.
Oh, sorry, Keith. I didn't want to steal your thunder there.
No, go on.
Yesterday I had a bit of a moment, so I phoned John and said, "Help me," and we kind of came around to the reminder of acceptance. So we can't. None of this. It's a reminder again that we don't have any control over this, and it's just accepting what we are, what we're in now. Everything that's going on now, whether we deem it to be good or bad, it's accepting it and just welcoming it and loving it, I guess. So there might be feelings that we have that we deem to be not what we want in this moment, but accepting those will allow those, as we all know, they will allow those feelings to pass. So we just kind of got to say thank you to John. It just got me back on track. It's a bit like a snakes and ladders board, I think, this game, isn't it, of life, and especially in lockdown. Yeah, at the moment I'm on top of the ladder, so we'll see when the snake comes along.
That's an interesting analogy. There's somebody I know that speaks about life being like a game of snakes and ladders, and I've heard him mention it a few times. So that absolutely is, yeah.
There's an important point that we talked about, which was and again in the same way when we were talking about peace last week, and there can be a misunderstanding of what peace means. There's an assumption that because we talk about acceptance as being an above the line emotion, that means that everything's always nice and fluffy. But to be in acceptance means being in acceptance of everything, including the crap, including the fact that sometimes we do feel below the line. But if you're in acceptance of that, then it's nowhere near as painful and it passes quicker. So to be in acceptance is accepting absolutely everything. It's accepting everything that life throws at us and living life from that place. And thank you, Jenny. Thank you for reaching out.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Keith was going to say something, and Ashaka's got a hand up as well. So, Keith, if you
go on then, I'll jump in.
Jump in.
Yeah, it was just a bit. Basically, Kerry said quite a lot of what I was going to say anyway, and so did Jenny. But I think what I've noticed chatting to people is whatever they're focusing on really determines their attitude towards this. So the people who are looking at all the crap on the news and all this and the other, they're all doom and gloom. And then you've got people who are just looking at a little bit, getting a bit of information, accepting everything and getting on with life. And me personally, I've had a few challenges, but I mean, you know, I'm enjoying and really grateful for this time to spend talking to family and friends and stuff like that, and which I never did before. Never put that time aside. Yeah, and I'm grateful for all that I've learned from this EM and Sanjay and everyone, because this group makes me really be present and in the moment and appreciate what I've got. And you can hear the birds and appreciate the weather and appreciate and accept everything, accept the crap with the good. And that's a really important thing to do. You know, don't put rose-tinted glasses on and just, you know, see the world like that. You've got to accept all the crap as well and go with it. So yeah, that was it really. But yeah, all good.
And just wanted to add that accepting the crap doesn't mean you can't do anything about it.
No.
It just means you stop fighting and wanting it to be different.
Yeah.
And save your energy on the actual action you've got to take rather than on fighting the reality of what is at the present.
Yeah. Well, I think once you accept it, you're in a better place to deal with it and put the action in. And sometimes you bury your head in the sand when all the crap's coming up, you hide from it and you don't put any action in, or the action you do is not good. So I think accepting the crap and dealing with it from that point is good. Good.
Yeah, and it is that trying to fight reality again, as Sanjay says. The only thing you're guaranteed is you will lose 100% of the time. And in fighting reality, you are the only one that suffers. Reality really couldn't give a. Can I say toss on a call? Can't give a toss.
Yeah. Well, you can. You know, I was just thinking of Donald Trump, our favourite friend again. The virus doesn't give a toss what he fumes about, and he's discovering that all his venting isn't doing any good whatsoever. So, reality or the virus doesn't care what we think about it, what we kind of spite about it. It's just is. It's what do we do about this reality that matters. You know, what can we do to move forward? Yeah.
So just as you said that, it just suddenly occurred to me: couldn't you even admire the virus? Admire the virus for its efficiency and how well it does what it does, and it just gets on with it and it does it.
So when we were talking about perfection the other night, the virus is perfect.
Yeah. Anyway, that's maybe a different conversation. Shaka, you had your hand up. Hello.
Hi everybody. Hi, thank you. Firstly, I will just follow on. The virus is perfect. Actually, everything in the life is perfect as it is, and that's something that I'm more and more learning. As I've known that for some time, but I'm really now experiencing it and accepting that everything is perfect as it is, whatever the life brings us. But I would like to follow up on what Kerry said. I absolutely agree with what Kerry said, and when she said that she really likes what is happening right now, I love it. Absolutely love it. Obviously, aside the illness and everything, but the lifestyle that I've been forced to have, which means, you know, not to do much. It's just really nice. And John, when you asked Kerry whether she would like this to end, can answer you from me. I don't want to end what I'm experiencing now in terms of adjustment of the life. And this is now, for example, for me, a real wake-up call, how to readjust my life when we go back to normal, whatever that normal means. So I would like to create new normal for myself. You know, I would like to work much less that I've worked so far. Money has always been concern, but somehow it's not anymore because of what we've done with the work with Sanjay in last few months. And I was on Wednesday on a like a running master class, and I said to people there, because they've been all talking about how they need to readjust in terms of their sports because of the stress from lockdown. And I said, I'm not stressed at all, I'm absolutely fine. And they thought that I was cuckoo. They were like, oh really, you are fine? I said, absolutely fine. And then when we finished the master class, I actually realized that I'm fine just because what we've done, the work we've done. I don't think I would be as fine if it wasn't for emotional mastery. But my thought of it is that whilst I absolutely hated it from the beginning, I had a couple of really big meltdowns, and what I really miss at this moment is to see people I love. It's actually, I kind of feel I'm on a retreat, and every day I class myself, or no class, consider myself very lucky because I have gone through another day. I haven't got virus so far, you know, probably maybe I will get it at some point, you know, and we will deal with it then, but I may not. So what's the point worrying about it? I've stopped worrying about nearest and dearest dying because, and I was very much at the beginning of whole lockdown, because it's just shock into the system. But I almost accepted that when is our time to go for any of us, we will. Actually saying that today is quite poignant because it would have been my mom's 70, for those who haven't seen it on Facebook. So you know, it just makes me kind of like really calm. That may stop at some point, but again, it's not point worrying about it because I need to live in the present moment, and the present moment is that it's fine. I actually quite like lying in the garden pretending that I'm in Ibiza. So it's, you know, and every time somebody asks me what have you done today, and I'm like, not much. makes me feel less and less guilty, I must admit. Initially I felt really guilty, and I'm like thinking, yeah, I could live like that, obviously with a little bit more structure probably to the day, but and I do have structure. I started getting up again at 6 o'clock and do my runs and do my exercises and cook a lot and all these things. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say. So, thank you.
Maybe that's your challenge then.
Challenge is what?
Your challenge is to keep something similar to the way your life is now going forward.
Yes, I will be very much focusing, Dave, on creating the life that will be very similar to this and still be able to make money or receive money. I will not say just make. I haven't said earn on purpose, but to receive money and basically just focus on doing the best I can and be, I would think, the best contribution to anybody around me, whatever that means, you know, whether it means that one day I will bring somebody shopping, and another day it means that I sell house, and another day it means that I'll do something different. Whatever it means at that very moment, to be a contribution to somebody, and actually through, and we had this discussion, Dave, for whatever I do, as long as it makes me happy, because when it makes me happy, I naturally will have positive effect to others with that. So yeah, absolutely.
Just, yeah, because it is your life. This is your life. Kerry said, life is transient. It's all transient for all of us.
Yeah.
But it is your life to make it in whatever way works for you. It's not about what other people think. It's not about other people's opinions of how hard or much you should be working.
Yeah.
So you make your life in the way that works for you, and then enjoy it.
I think I need to do attachments and aversions on feeling that if I don't work a lot, that I'm lazy ass.
Lazy ass.
My English, and ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
Thank you, Shaka.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering, kind of picking up on that a little bit more, just wondering, is anybody more appreciative simply of being alive as a result of this process? Just comments rather than hands.
Well, I know I've already said.
It's a sign you're alive.
Yeah, for me, it's just an appreciation of being able to experience things. Whatever it is, whether it's emotional things coming up, whether it's the physical, being able to experience stuff. Never thought about it before. Taken it all for granted. Taken so much for granted.
I suppose the interesting thing, particularly within this group, is this is an extreme example of, but life is doing this all the time, which is throwing things at you that you didn't expect and anticipate. And one of the great gifts of this work is that you realize that you always have a choice as to how you respond. And that's what it's about at the end of the day. There will be millions of people out there who are having a very different experience from us because that's how they've chosen to respond. We've chosen to respond in this way, and including in that is the simple appreciation of waking up in the morning and saying, well, thank God for that. What's life got in store for me today? There. On it.
How to quieten a room.
Many ways I can do that. Usually by shouting, actually.
Nikki, you got your hand up, so.
Hello, Nikki.
Hi, for me, it's given me the opportunity to spend time with myself, which I've never ever done before. And I've actually, through this process, learned to like myself, to actually realize that actually I'm an okay person. I'm enough. I don't need anything else. I like other things, but actually I don't need anything else. It's been a real light bulb moment for me.
Are you just okay?
Hey, no, I'm great. I'm great.
Thank you.
No, I'm great. And I think I posted on the site that I actually realized the other day that if I met me, I would love me and I'd want to be my friend. And that's the first time I've ever got to that point in my life where I can totally accept who I am.
Beautiful.
So for me, it's been brilliant, a brilliant time.
And what a powerful insight, because the vast majority of the planet don't get to feel what you just felt, because very few people who genuinely like themselves or love themselves just the way they are. Something's always going to happen. Life's always going to change in a certain way for them to feel better about themselves. But here you are, you're experiencing it in the here and now, and that is a great place to be, because everything changes from that place, and the relationships you have with people change. The way that you interact with life changes, and if that's all you got out of coronavirus, that's worth its weight in gold.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because in the past it's always been, when I do this, when this happens, when I'm at this stage, then I'll be happy, then I'll be content. And I don't know, it just sort of suddenly realized and thought, well, what if nothing else ever changes? Yeah, and as I say, it's the first time I've ever spent the time spending time with me and working out, what makes me tick, what I need. And I've realized actually I don't need anything. It's all here already. I've got all I need.
And without realizing it, you've done a really powerful exercise in attachments and aversions that we talk about, because the ultimate, those of you who remember the very last stage of the attachments and aversions, is going to the extreme end of the attachment or the aversion. And basically what that's saying is, what if nothing ever changes? That this is it. This is the final reality you're going to face. Nothing ever changes. Can you be okay in that? And you just answered, yes, you can, because I don't need all those other things that I thought I needed. Doesn't mean I can't have them. I can still have them, but I don't need them. And that's a powerful place to be, the realization that they're just places which you're allowed to have, you can have, but even if you don't need them. So who else? Any comments whether around what we've been speaking about or anything else to do with life as it is at the moment for you or for people that you know? Adrian, you put your hand up.
Yeah, I am in a slightly different place than a lot of people, because my workload's gone up a lot. So I'm spending a lot more time doing things I don't enjoy doing, such as contingency planning, worrying about the future. I see these days we have 2 meetings a day, and I'm like, right, is there anything else we've not panicked about? For fuck's sake. It's an area of uncomfort to me, because I wouldn't normally plan and have all these contingency planning the way I'm being forced to do. And yeah, so basically my workload's gone up a lot, but it's stuff I don't enjoy doing. And this week I've been trying to not furlough people or what have you. But this week I got to a point where I put 2 people on furlough. And that made me feel awful, actually, because like I know there's over a couple of 2 or 3 million people in the UK have been, and I've just done it to 2, and I feel really bad because of the 2 I've done. Yeah, because I don't really impact the other 3 million. But I do those 2. It made me feel really quite bad. And I know it's about acceptance. I need to accept it, but I'm feeling I'm finding that quite challenging. I'm finding letting go of the control quite challenging. The control that I'm not in control of their income, whereas I always have been before, and that's kind of made me feel pretty shit. So yeah, basically, I'm a bit sort of fed up this week, really, just because of kind of those things, really.
Okay, let's question some of those things then. I kind of sympathize with you to an extent, in the sense that I find myself to be busier than I've been for at least 2 to 3 years, doing things that I don't actually enjoy doing. But this time it's different in the sense that all of this is coming at a time when actually a lot of people can't do anything because they've been furloughed or other things are happening. And for me personally, it's a sign of the opportunity there is in this for many people to come through this in a different way for their businesses and for their communities and wherever, whatever else is going on. So that's that, but it's still been difficult because I'm working long hours, doing things which I don't always enjoy doing. And I know that's temporary. And the question I wanted to ask you was, isn't this an opportunity for you also to really get precise about what you enjoy doing and what you don't enjoy doing? And coming out of this is to offload all of those things that you don't enjoy doing to somebody else. Who perhaps it does enjoy doing. So I know, for example, all of you know Margaret, and she put a post up earlier this week offering help to people with spreadsheets. Well, great, because I can use spreadsheets, but I don't particularly enjoy using them. But if I know somebody else enjoys using them, I'm quite happy to pay them to say, well, you do it. So that's one thing, that could come out of this. But the point that I wanted to pick up was around control. And the two people that you had to follow. I can't remember exactly what you said, but it was something along the lines of you control their income.
Mm.
Do you really?
No, I don't. It's just, I suppose that
you pay them a certain amount, but that may not be their own income, and if it is, who's in control of how that income is then used? So,
it's them.
Yeah.
It's absolutely them. Yeah,
So,
I just kind of feel a sense.
Yeah. So the sense of not feeling great because you had to furlough them. Where's that coming from? What do you think you should have been doing instead that would have made you feel better?
I could have kept them on, but then that would just be basically coming out of my pocket and me making a loss as a result.
Yeah, and how long would you have been able to survive whilst making a loss?
Yeah, not very long.
So as it is, they're going to get roughly 80% of their income. I don't know what.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So it's not as if you've taken the job away.
No.
In effect, they're being paid to do nothing for a while. And if they're being paid to do nothing and they're going to earn up to 80% of their income, haven't you just given them the gift of time for a few weeks or a few months where they can actually enjoy life? Because they know the bulk of the income is being taken care of.
Yeah. And realistically, their expenditure will be very much down because you can't go out or anything. Can you?
Yeah. But again, that's something that they're in control of. And what they do with that is up to them. But you can't be held responsible for that because you never were in control of any of that.
No, I think I feel the responsibility for others. But it's not, ultimately, I can't be responsible for them. No. I'm living in their world. I'm trying to sort of be in their
and I think it occurs for anybody who is doing this, that is doing this with a heart, that when they're doing something which could impact other people, they don't do it lightly. And you haven't done it lightly, but it's something you've had to do by the sound of it. Because I know in previous chats you've said that you didn't want to furlough people, so you've been resisting it. It's only because it's reached a point at which it was either that or the business taking a hit, and if the business takes a hit, nobody benefits from that long term. You're actually risking the jobs of everybody then.
Yeah.
So the responsible thing is actually to make the harder decision, or make not the harder, but a hard decision, which is to say to two people, okay, you're going to earn most of your income. The payoff is, in that time, you can't work for the company. So if you want to take time off, you can do anything you want to. And in return, you'll get 80% of your income. That's really giving them a gift. Because what they do with that time is up to them. You can't do anything about that.
Yeah.
They could sit there resenting you for taking away 20% of their income, or they could sit there and realize that if you hadn't done that, they may not have a job at the end.
If I can just take that one stage further, I certainly empathise with what you're saying, Adrian, and running a business in these times is damn challenging. Because we were doing a forecast at the end of last week, a cash forecast, we started to talk about how things are going to be when things reopen. And we're already talking about the fact we're going to have to make some staff redundant. And at the time I wouldn't say that we talk about it glibly, but we recognise it. And then thinking about it afterwards, if you make somebody redundant, well, that's just, you make the best decision you can. But the impact on them can be horrendous. They can lose their homes, their marriages can collapse. There's all kinds of things that could happen as a result of that. But ultimately, that is outside of my control. I've got a responsibility to the majority of the staff that if I don't do that, everybody, the business is in danger. And the other thing which I said a number of times, but which I do believe to be true, is that there are a number of great lessons from an EM point of view this is the ultimate lesson that we have no control.
Mm.
And the sooner that we really
That's what I'm finding out about.
yeah, but this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to grow. This is an opportunity to really go in, to face that, and to genuinely accept that the only thing that we control is how we respond.
Mm.
And a lot of the time we don't, the immediate response, if you have a thought and then you have the emotion, that immediate response you don't necessarily control.
Yeah.
I had a thought around emotional mastery because, we run the course. I've been doing it for 20 odd years, and it's come down to May and November, and it's been like that for many years. And I was thinking, well, we can't do it this time, but I've got to make it up to the people. I've got to make sure that they get something of quality in the meantime. And then it occurred to me, actually, we're on basically the best emotional mastery course we could ever be, because we don't even need to manufacture the exercises. We don't have to play Simon Says, because the government's doing that. And we get to experience in reality. So we're dealing with the wants in real life rather than a manufactured sense. And that in itself is worth it, worth its weight in gold. And maybe we should be paying them to say, thank you very much for this retreat.
Mm.
But they're not charging us anything. They're actually even giving us money.
Giving us money.
It's a sign of the crazy times we live in.
Sorry, Kerry's been dying to.
Carry on.
Hello.
Thanks, Dave. Adrian, just picking up from what you were saying, like feeling really bad about having to furlough 2 of your staff. You might be giving them, as Sanjay said earlier, the biggest gift to sit and reflect on their own life. And if you think about it, if someone's giving you 80% of your salary to stay at home, be with your family, catch up on all of the jobs, be present, have a lie-in, enjoy the sunshine, be in the garden, have time with the kids, assuming they've got some, that can't be all a bad thing.
No.
And sometimes, during these times, it's a bit like during a recession, that's when people become more creative and inventive and use that as a springboard to change their life and to do what they actually really, really want to do. So whilst you're feeling bad about furloughing those 2 members of staff, you're actually in their business and not in your own. So to get back into your own business would be really useful as well. And, to stop you feeling so bad about it, because they might be loving it. They might be absolutely loving life. The sun's shining. They can have a beer at 11 o'clock if they like, because they're getting 80% of their salary. So it's not all necessarily a bad thing. And your decision has come from the right place. It's come from your heart and your head as well. But that if you didn't have to make that decision, that you wouldn't have done that. But you've done it from the right place, and the rest is not your business.
And let me just add another viewpoint to that. So my understanding of the furlough rules is it's going to cost you 20%. You still have to fork out 20% of the salary. So
not only if you pay them full salary.
No, you don't.
Oh, okay. So it's even better.
Because basically it's neutral.
Yeah. So basically, you're just you could keep them on and have them continue to work. But by furloughing them, you're giving them this gift, which is not really costing them anything. In return, they, for taking a 20% cut in the salary, they got 100% of their time back.
Yeah.
That's not a bad return. What's that worth per hour? And you don't have to do it. And you could have chosen any 2 other people, but you chose these 2 people. So who is it that should be thanking whom, and who should be feeling guilty if there's anything to feel guilty over? So it's looking at it from a different perspective. I like a lot of people here, I fall through the net. I don't qualify for any benefits, but if I could be furloughed, I'd be really grateful for you right now.
Yeah.
Quite nice.
Anything else on that? That's you, Adrian. Any other?
Oh, me? No, that's great. Thank you very much. It's very handy.
Zoe's got a hand.
It's good to just to vent it.
Yeah. Okay. Zoe first, and I know Keith had his hand up earlier as well.
Sorry, yeah. And then, yeah.
Hi. Yeah, I'm furloughed. I'm happy. I love being furloughed, so don't worry about it, Adrian. Yeah, so I'm really liking the time that I've got at home, and I found myself being more still, just being really. And in the morning I wake up, I think, what would I like to do today, as opposed to what do I have to do today. And it's nice, and I'm not actually looking forward to going back to work. I don't know if I will have a job to go back to, because I think the schools are going to be off for longer than the rest of like normal work, should we say. So I've got a duty of care for my children, obviously. I've got to help with their schooling. So my boss has already said to me that he can't afford to, he needs to have his showroom open full time. He can't allow it to just be open part-time up until September, which potentially that's the date that the schools have been talking about for quite a while now, that it's going to be the next year before the kids go back. So potentially I might not have a job at all. But actually I'm okay with that. So I don't mind, and I'm using this time to really think about what I want to do. And and without being furloughed, I wouldn't have the time to do that, because I'd be too busy doing things that I'd have to do rather than what I want to do. So yeah, don't worry, Adrian. It'll be good. It'll be fine.
Thank you, Zoe. Keith, do you have something to say?
Yeah, well, it's just going back to, this is where things like the Byron Katie comes in, and the turnaround is, what could the alternative thought pattern be? So instead of saying, oh, I've laid him off, feel guilty, actually, you've done them a favour, could they be grateful for it? And you might have a bunch of other staff thinking, hang on, why did we not get furloughed? Yeah. So, but that's not your business, it's their business, their thoughts. So just let it go. Yeah.
But anybody who does ask you, why not me, just say, because I don't like you. But what else? What are some of the challenges which have come up?
I'm also conscious of time, so we are coming up to 5 o'clock.
Okay, well, we're almost out of time. We've got 2 minutes left. Anybody got anything else that they're dying to say, or have we covered what we need to cover for this afternoon? I'll take that to be, yes, we've covered what we need to cover. Thank you all very much. And again, as always, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. And we shall do the same again in a week's time, because as far as I'm aware, we're going to be locked down again for a bit. So I hope you can make it in the future. And those that are watching on Facebook, if you would like to be in on the Zoom conference itself, message us through the page, and we can invite you onto the conference itself as well. Thank you all very much. Over to you, Dave.
Yeah, okay. I don't know, John, if you got anything you wanted to add?
Not
the only thing that springs to mind is I'm looking at Julia's screen, and I'm going to pin it up, because if anyone asks me from now on what colour is the sky, I shall say it's blues.
Brings a whole new meaning to getting the blues, doesn't it?
So yeah, we've got blues skies from now on. And that's all I had to add, really. Thank you.
Okay, that's it then. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much.
Going through the weather outside if it's still sunny, and if it's not, go have a drink or something. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.